Welcome to the Raising Confident Girls podcast, your guide to raising strong, confident daughters. I'm Melissa Jones, the founder of Girls Positivity Club and a teacher for over 20 years. In a world where girls often feel overwhelmed, anxious, and confused, this podcast is your go-to space. As caregivers, we navigate challenges together. I founded Girls Positivity Club to provide a place where you belong and get the tools to face today's hurdles. Consider this your regular check-in with a trusted friend, offering insights and practical tips for meaningful conversations. I'm here to help you feel confident on this journey of raising a generation of empowered girls. Let's dive in and raise those confident girls together. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Raising Confident Girls. I am Melissa Jones, your host and the founder of Girls Positivity Club, and I am so happy you're here today because we have a topic that's been on my mind the last week or so, and that is confidence killers hiding in everyday conversations and what to say instead. So I want to do this episode because I've been hearing a theme lately from parents, from teachers, and even girls in my clubs and just individual parents that I've talked to about the moment when we say something totally well-intentioned and later realize it might have landed differently than what we meant. And the truth is, we've all done this. I've done it. I was a teacher for over 23 years, and I'm a mom. I'm a mentor to girls, and I still catch myself saying things, even to my friends or my mom or whoever, that I think will help, but then end up missing the mark a little bit. And that's not the intention of how it started in the first place. So today I'm not here to make anybody feel bad or judged. I'm here to give you awareness, just like I am with myself, grace, and language that builds confidence instead of accidentally shrinking it. And before we get too deep into the episode, I want to remind you that the best compliment you can give is to share this episode and this show with a parent or a caregiver who it could help. And because that's always the intention. I always want to give you a tip or a tool or a phrase that you can use with your daughter, the girls in your life who you want to positively impact, that will help build your relationship, help you work through something, help be proactive, even if nothing really is going on that's hard or challenging. And so, yeah, that's always my intention. I also wanted to say, if any of you listening would like to get Girls Positivity Club started at your daughter's school, your community school, where you live, basically, if you want to bring it to your area, just send me a message either on Facebook or Instagram at Girls Positivity Club or Gmail, girlspositivityclub@gmail. And just let me know if you want help in getting a club started in your area. And you don't have to lead the club. They are usually teachers or personnel within the school. And yeah, you can just do the intro and just help me find out what school so that I can find out if it's a good fit. And we're always enrolling for clubs. So there's never a bad time to start a club. Even at the end of a school year, we would just then look at the following school year. So we can start them at any time. So just send me a message if you're interested. And I would love to learn more about your community and how we can bring Girls Positivity Club, positive place for girls to be in your area. So today we're going to talk about 5 common phrases that come from love. But when we tweak them just a little bit, they can help our daughters feel safe, seen, and strong. And I can think of many times as a parent, as a girl, as a woman, that I had these intentions of saying the right thing, and it just hits differently. So with whoever I'm saying it to, and I'm thinking specifically of, girls. And, I think about my mom and how growing up, she would say things to me like, just believe in yourself. And that's not one of the phrases, but because I think you should say that to girls and kids in general. But sometimes it feels like too big, like you don't know how to do that. Or you're like, oh, it's kind of like when someone says, don't worry about it. It's like, oh yeah, okay, I won't worry about it. Like it seems so simple to be like, it's simple, but it's not easy, I should say. So And sometimes that can backfire and cause kind of some backlash of just them feeling defensive about you saying something like that. So, I know I've said these things as a parent, as a person. And so I hope that these are seen as little reframes that you can do to help empower the girls in your life. And I'll give examples from my own life as we go. So the first one is be nice. So I've definitely said this, and it's not that it's bad to say, but sometimes when we just say be nice, it's a little bit vague. And also it can teach girls unintentionally to be nice at every expense. And I know that's not what we intend, but I know for me, I pushed down a lot of my feelings or like times when I should have stood up for myself because I wanted to be polite or I wanted to be kind or I was afraid to say something that was empowering for me because I was worried about how it might be perceived by the other person. So instead of be nice, we can say things like be kind, but don't ignore your feelings. So we want our daughters, of course, our kids in general to be, I have a son too. Like I want him to be polite. And we want them to avoid conflict, even though, yes, conflict is part of life. We want to, I should say, not avoid conflict, but we want them to work through conflict in healthy ways. And we want them to treat others well. So it usually comes from wanting to protect them when we say be nice from being mean, being labeled as mean. And so the word nice can unintentionally teach girls to, just shut down their inner feelings of, well, I shouldn't say that because it's not nice or it's not polite. And they're often thinking of like how to make other people feel more comfortable. And so nice can mean to them sometimes don't rock the boat, even when something doesn't feel right. So try saying instead, be kind, but don't ignore your feelings. So meaning you're giving her permission to both be empathy, like have empathy, be empathetic, and also set boundaries when they're needed, that she can care about others and herself. So at 6 to 9, this could be practicing role playing that's kind but firm. So, like saying no, thank you, or I don't want to play that game in a calm voice. So, let's say, for example, I would see this at recess a lot, especially with younger kids, ages 6 to 9, where there would be one kid who wants to tell everybody in that friend group what they're going to do at recess. This is normally the leader of the pack. Like the other girls are kind of scared to question it. And it's not like they're scared physically, but they don't want to disappoint because this person it could be a boy or a girl, but they could have a very strong personality because boys and girls can play, obviously. But it's allowing her to say, like, you can still be nice about it, but you can say, I don't want to play that at recess. I'm going to go over here and play this, but I'll catch up with you after. Or if you're going to swing, like, I'm not really wanting to swing today. I'm going to go play kickball instead, and I'll meet up with you at the monkey bars or whatever that is. So it's just them saying what they need. And it doesn't mean that they're never compromising and doing things that a group wants to do, but it's also allowing her to, if they do the same thing every day, this is only an example, obviously, have the courage to say, I don't really want to do that today. I'd like to do something different. I'm in the mood to do this thing. And so a lot of times why girls hold back from doing that is because they don't want to rock the boat with their friends or with whoever this leader is who is deciding what they're going to do at recess or deciding what kind of materials they're going to use for a project or whatever the case would be. It's normally a very strong-willed person who is more extroverted, especially if you have a soft-spoken daughter who's very kind and polite. And not that extroverted girls can't be nice, because they can. But that's just an example of how you can role play with her if she brings it up to you, of how you could say no, or you could stand up in a kind but firm way. And then as they're getting older, ages 10 to 13, you could talk about kind honesty and how you can speak the truth with compassion. So it's again, I think some people, especially parents think as the girls are getting older and as comments might come across as rude from other girls is that they have to tell the girl off back or say nothing. And so to me, there is a kind honesty that you can do where you can be direct and you can be kind, but you can do it with compassion and you don't have to like get in a confrontation with them about it, because a lot of girls are afraid to, because like I said, they don't want to be confrontational, or want to they don't want to be seen as aggressive, but also they don't like what's happening. So this could be in class. Maybe a girl is gossiping about another girl and they know that that other girl is really nice, or maybe they don't even know that other girl very well, but they don't want to be around the gossip. And so they could say like, hey, I don't really want to talk about her like that. Could you please stop? And that's very simple. It's very clear. It's polite. It's assertive. It's not, you need to stop talking about her like that. And like a lot of times girls think that they have to go from either nothing to like telling the girl off to get results. And so teaching her to do kind honesty and to use that calm voice and just say, I don't think it's right that you're talking about her like that. That seems like it's private and she wouldn't want that shared. So can you please stop? And if the girl's like, I don't have to listen to you, then she can be like, well, I'm not going to be part of it. So I'm just going to go over here. And that may seem like taking a bold stand, but it is. And your daughter has to decide, and you can talk with her about this. Like, what are your values with your friends? Do you want to be around gossip? Do you want to be around girls who talk like that about other girls? And so I'm using that example 10 to 13 because that tends to be when that ramps up. And that can be where exclusion starts to be happening more. And so your daughter, especially if she's a very inclusive girl and she likes to hang out with a lot of different types of people, she could just say it in a calm and kind and firm voice. And same thing as she gets older, she can say that, like, you can discuss with her that being kind doesn't mean being a people pleaser and going along with every single thing. It means being respectful, even if you disagree. And I don't know why it's just a degree, but I guess I was thinking about them getting a degree. I don't know. But you can say, like, even if you disagree about issues, because typically when they're getting older, they start taking more of a stance on more kind of global issues, or they have stronger opinions about certain things, certain topics. And so just explaining to her too, and talking with her about, like, you don't have to go along with everything your friends want to do. So if you're feeling like it's off, so it's helping her, I think, at any age, listen to that inner voice. And if something feels off, just deciding, like, do I want to be a part of this? And if they don't, same thing, like being like, I'm just going to go do something else. I don't want to really do that. Or that sounded a little passive, but you can say, like, I don't really, same example as before, like with the issue, like a global issue or something. If someone's talking about how they think it's a waste of time to, I don't know, worry about the environment because we won't be around anyway. She could state her opinion about it, or I'm just thinking of like a bigger issue that maybe they would talk about, or how they feel about going to parties or not going to parties, or a political issue maybe. Then they can just be like, I don't agree with you, but I respect what you're saying. I have a different opinion, and she can decide if she wants to talk about it or not. There are some issues that I believe that you can be friends with all kinds of different people, and everybody doesn't have to believe the exact same thing about every single thing that you believe to be a friend, or you don't have to have everything in common to be a friend. So you can find lots of things that you have in common. So just talking with her about that. Like, you don't have to go along with what she thinks about a certain person or a certain topic or an idea just to fit in and be part of the group. So being a people pleaser in that way. Or you don't have to always do what they want to do on the weekends. You can also say, we did this the last couple weeks. What if we did this week? I'd really like to do this. Or you guys can do that. I'm going to go do this, and it's okay to separate herself without breaking up with a friend group. So those are some examples that you might find at those ages. And basically, just thinking about that kindness includes her own feelings and also thinking of others, but that her voice matters too, just as much. And she has to check in about, how that feels and how that looks for her. Tip 2, or the phrase that's one that can be tricky, is you're fine. So I think I've said this a lot when they were younger. So when they would fall and scratch, a knee or fall off something, and you're like, you're fine, like trying to help them kind of work through the pain or the embarrassment or something like that. But what that can do is like it can dismiss what they're really feeling. So instead, you could say something like, that must have felt hard. Because the reason we typically say you're fine is because we want to comfort them quickly and we want to help them get over the pain quickly. We want her to feel okay. And so when we rush to say you're fine, what she hears is that her feelings don't matter or too much, like she's being too dramatic about it, or that her feelings don't matter about it. And that's oftentimes not what we mean at all. We're just helping them not have as big of a reaction right away. And we're trying to help them regulate their feelings. And sometimes saying you're fine, even though we mean well, because I've said it too, it's as they're getting older, it's not necessarily helping them feel comforted. So saying that must have felt, fill in the blank, that must have hurt, that must have felt hard, that must have been disappointing, whatever they're telling you about, you're not agreeing with her feelings. You're just simply acknowledging them. So it helps her calm faster because she feels understood. So if they tell you something about, let's say, something that happened on the bus, and maybe they unintentionally, tripped someone and the person thought they did it on purpose and they yelled in their face or they did something. And like for me, if that would have happened as a child, I was very sensitive and that would have made me cry. And I would have, worried that the person thought that I really did try to hurt them and all these things. And so that's just an example. And I was just a very sensitive child because I had a lot of emotional just chaos inside because I was trying to figure out where I belonged and all that. But, saying that when I went home and told my mom what had happened on the bus or whatever the case may be, her saying, you're fine, would have just made me feel kind of dismissed. Whereas if she said, oh, honey, that feels really like, that sounds like it was really hard. I'm so sorry that happened. That makes me feel more comforted because it's like she's validating how I felt about it. So when they're 6 to 9, it's like helping them label it like, oh, that sounds like it was disappointing. Did that scare you? Or, oh, that sounds like it scared you. Or that sounds like that was a hard situation. Like that sounds like it was frustrating. That sounds like it was sad, or whatever the case would be. And you can even have her name the feeling and you can say like, how did you feel? And if she says scared, like, in the bus case, I would have been scared that I would get in trouble because I would have thought that maybe the bus driver thought that I really did trip. And especially now with cameras on buses, like whatever. And so I could have said that I was scared. I was sorry. I was upset. I felt like misunderstood. So if my mom was like, oh, that does sound hard, or that does sound scary, or that does sound humiliating if everyone is laughing about it or something like that, then that can help her kind of frame it and feel understood by you and not dismissed by just saying, oh, you're fine. No one will remember tomorrow. And in those cases, like parents mean well or caregivers mean well, but they just kind of feel like it's brushed over. And, not that you're going to go through this with every single thing that ever happens, but if they're upset enough to talk with you about it, it's probably a sign that this would be really helpful for them, for you to be able to empathize with how they really are feeling. And then as they're getting older, teaching her a feeling scale. So you can ask, how did that feel on the bus? Like, how did it feel? And she's like, humiliating or scary or upsetting or whatever it is, you can say, or frustrated. You could say, what was that on a frustrated scale? Was it like a 3 frustrated, or was it an 8? So you can do like a 0 to 10, or you can do a 1, 2, 3. Sometimes 1, 2, 3 is so much easier. It's kind of like when you do those surveys and they give you like likely, very likely, unlikely, almost unlikely. Sometimes they give you too many options. You're like, I don't even know. I'm just going to put the middle. Sometimes with kids, like 1, 2, or 3 is the easiest to do, because 1 is like no, 2 is kind of, and then 3 is yes, a lot. So even if you say, was it and you can decide that with your own child and what works best for you. But if you're like, was it a 1 frustrated, like not that much, or was it a 3, or was it a 0 to 10, whatever you want to say. And that way you're able to check in with them about how upset they are in the situation. If they're like, no, it was a 2. I'll get over it. Like I just, I just felt frustrated because everyone was laughing, and I know I didn't do it on purpose. I said I was sorry, and blah, blah, blah. Or if they're like, it was an 8, I felt like everyone was looking at me. They're all mad at me, or they're all laughing, or whatever the case would be. And then you can kind of go from there and know how you want to navigate the conversation and how you want to support her talking through it. And then as they're getting older in that teenage, the 14 and up, that's when you can, and I think you can do this anytime, but especially as they're getting older, because they want to be more independent. I know, because I have a teenager, I have a 17-year-old. So asking like, do you want comfort or ideas? Do you want comfort right now or ideas? So sometimes they just want a hug. They just want you to be there. They just want you to sit next to them and watch a show, just to kind of get their mind off of it until they're ready to talk. Or sometimes they want ideas, like, how do you think I should handle it? But asking them teaches them how to have those emotional boundaries with you, because like I said, when they're in those teenage years, they are really trying to figure things out themselves. They're trying to have more independence. And even in talking to my teenage volunteers in summer camp and Girls Positivity Club summer camps, they told me that, because I asked them, like, how do you feel about your parents talking through things with you? Because I'm always trying to figure out the way that girls think about things so that I can pass it on to you. And a lot of them said, it's not that I don't want their advice, but sometimes I've already figured it out on my own, and I kind of want to process through it, because I know that as I'm getting older, I'm going to have to do that anyway. And I'll ask if I need help. Or sometimes they're like, I didn't really know how to bring it up, so I was glad that they did. And then when they ask me if I want help, that helps me feel more in control of it, instead of me feeling like I'm just sitting through a lecture, because a lot of them feel like they're being lectured, even if it doesn't seem like a lecture to you. So validation and saying, oh, that sounds hard, that sounds frustrating. And like I said, when they're older, saying, do you need comfort or do you need ideas, is a good way to handle that in the teenage years. And it helps them just move through the emotion instead of burying it and trying to just like, oh, she said I'm fine, so I guess I just have to ignore it and just move on. And again, they'll let you know when it's something bigger that they need to process and talk through, but just saying that you understand how they feel goes a long, long way. The third tip that I've said and that we mean well with, and it's not that it's horrible, but it is just do your best. The reason is it can feel really vague. So they're like, well, I did just do my best. Maybe they didn't pass something. And you're like, I said, just do your best. Did you do your best? And they're like, yeah, I didn't know any of it. And so then that feels a little bit like, well, I did, or I don't really know what my best is. So maybe they feel overwhelmed by do your best, like do your best, like I have to be the best. So it just depends on how your daughter kind of views that. But again, this isn't to have you overanalyze every single thing you say. This is just to give you a little bit of reframing. Just try one of these out, and don't feel like you have to do it perfectly, because I definitely don't. I'm not a perfect person or parent. But instead of just do your best, you could say, you can figure this out. Just take one step at a time, or let's do it step by step. So what that does is it helps them see that it's a process. So it's step by step is like, okay, when they're perfectionist, they do your best can sound like be perfect. But if you're like, and she's like, my best better be really good, it feeds that fear of not measuring up. And maybe that's not what you meant at all, but it's that internal perfectionism that they tend to have. And so by saying you can figure this out step by step, if it's a big project, if it's a friendship issue that's going on, it's like, well, just take it at one step at a time. And obviously you can offer support, but you're shifting the focus then from performance to process. So it's like there are steps in a process. There are always going to be things that you do along the way to get to an end goal. So it's helping her see that confidence and like doing little steps towards something is a skill that can grow her confidence. And so, for example, when they're younger, 6 to 9, it's like breaking tasks into small wins. So if they're overwhelmed by getting everything together that they need in the morning before school, it could be, okay, first let's pack your bag, then your snack, like maybe the night before. If you have a kid who it just feels chaotic in the morning because they're hard to wake up, or they just need things to be laid out ahead of time, or even if it's in the morning and they're running late, or they're just seem extra scattered, and that's just kind of typical. Or maybe it's not typical. Maybe they wake up late and whatever else. So it's just taking it first, let's pack your bag, then let's do your snack. Or if it's homework, I did an episode on homework last week, you can check out. But I talked about this when they have a lot of homework. It's like, what's the easiest thing we can do first? Or what's the first thing we can do to get you started? And so it's like, first we'll do this, then we'll do this. And it just helps them break it up into smaller steps. And then as they're getting older, 10 to 13, it's normalizing their mistakes. So it's showing them how it's okay to not be perfect. And you can tell them about a mistake that you made and how you handled it. So it could be anything. I mean, it could be about your life now, where maybe you said the wrong thing in a meeting, or whether you got on the wrong Zoom call, or you packed the wrong lunch, or you said the wrong thing, you messed up on a project, or in college, maybe you lost all of your paper and you had to do it all again, or you lost your notes and you had to do them all again. Something like that, where it's like, okay, mom or dad or whoever doesn't mean just do your best, like I have to be perfect. They mean that it's okay to make mistakes. And then as they're getting into that 14 to 18 age, it's literally talking to them about progress over perfection and telling them that like it's about growing, not getting the perfect score, not getting the perfect, whatever, like the perfect performance in a sport, or drawing the perfect picture. It's about how, yes, of course, we want to celebrate achievements and we want to celebrate the good things, and doing their best sometimes is getting an A or scoring the goal or whatever. But it's also helping them feel like them taking steps forward is also a really good sign of growth and its progress. So it's progress over perfection. You don't have to be perfect. Just keep taking steps forward. And if you get knocked down, you just keep moving forward, even if it's a baby step at a time. So when she learns that effort matters more than that instant success and getting the perfect score, the perfect whatever, she can start to relax and know that, yes, of course, she wants to do well in what she wants to do, but that her confidence can grow even as she is learning how to do a certain thing, or even as she is just growing as a person. You're going to make mistakes in friendship. You're going to make mistakes in schoolwork. You're going to, the goal of life isn't for us to be perfect at every single thing we do. It's about being able to learn from our mistakes and to keep moving forward. And that's really the best thing that we can teach them. The next one is a phrase that is so easy to say. And that is, especially with friends who are not being nice to your daughter, the girls in your life, don't worry about them. So that's hard because it's like what I said earlier when people are like, oh, don't worry about it. It's fine. Don't worry. It's like, well, if it was that simple, I would just not worry about it. Like it's one of those simple but not easy things to do. So instead of saying, don't worry about them, say something like, let's talk about what felt off. So because we hate seeing our daughters hurt, we want to protect them from caring about how people treat them and like when they don't treat them well. Of course, they should care about how people treat them, but when they don't treat them well, we want to protect them. And we can say something like, oh, don't worry about them or forget about them. It shuts the door too quickly when she's still really feeling it. So let's say that something happened in her friend group where maybe they excluded her, or maybe everybody decided to meet up at this certain place and didn't tell her, or maybe somebody said something that was just kind of off. Maybe they were teasing her about something that normally they didn't do. And so you can say to her, like, if she says, my friends just, I don't know, they just seem kind of not like they normally are. They just acted weird. They just acted weird today. And you could say, well, let's talk about what felt off. And so when you say that, it opens up her idea to processing those emotions, and she can tell you what felt off. So it's listening again to that inner voice and knowing like when something feels off in a friendship. And it's also knowing that you can understand what she's going through. And we also want her to know what a healthy friendship feels like and what a healthy relationship with you feels like, because we want them to come to us and talk with us and connect and tell us what's really going on. Because if they feel constantly shut out by us, or we're always like saying, well, what did you do or what happened, and it feels like accusatory in an accidental way, like you don't mean to accuse them of, like it just comes across like you're thinking that they had something to do with it. It can just make them shut down a little bit or not be as open. Or if they feel like that they'll get in trouble if they tell you something, or this is in their minds, just it could be a number of things. We want them to be able to come to us and tell us things, even if they're things that are maybe hard to hear about friends. So when they're younger, you can start off, and I think a lot of parents dismiss this because it seems like a lot of work, or it seems like wouldn't be effective. But I can tell you from Girls Positivity Club that having girls draw what a good friend looks like, this is that ages 6 to 9 age, they love doing things like that. So maybe it's a rainbow for kindness, or maybe it's a heart for listening. Like, what does a good friend look like to you? And were your friends being that today? Or were you being that as a friend as well today? So what felt off about, if you want these things in your friendship, if you want kindness and listening and sharing and whatever it is, then you can say, what didn't feel right today with your friends? And I did this in Girls Positivity Club a couple weeks ago. I had the girls create art based on their traits and like how they felt strong. And so it was a little bit different, but I had one girl, but similar, I think relatable to this example, because this one is more about like what a good friend looks like. But I had one girl who made planets of emotions, and she created planets like in outer space. Like a heart, there was a heart planet, and that stood for love and kindness and acceptance. And then a bow and arrow for bravery, and then a pencil for we're always learning together, and different things. And this girl was 8, and they just really loved it. Or I had them choose colors that represented different feelings, and then they used those colors in their art, and then they could explain how it all tied together. So yours doesn't have to be that detailed, but it can be, draw what a good friend looks like, not physically, but what are the traits? And you could use symbols for it. So what could including look like? What could trust look like? What could kindness look like? And again, it doesn't mean that we're telling them that friends are perfect and that we never have conflicts with friends, because I think that's not true either. But it's helping them name what they feel a good friend is, and then telling you what felt off in their interaction that day when they come home talking about it, or upset about a friendship, and telling you that that they are upset about something in their friendship. At 10 to 13, it's asking, what do you think a good friend does when someone's feelings are hurt? So knowing that she is probably the one, or she's reporting to you that another friend, maybe she's upset that another girl in the group's her feelings got hurt because her friends were not being kind in a certain way, and they were teasing her about something and she didn't like it, and it felt kind of off to you because they normally don't do that. And so it's helping her name, like, well, what do you think that should have been done, or what did you do to help her feel more comforted when she felt hurt, or when you felt hurt? What would you want your friends to do instead? And then as they're getting older, 14 to 18, it's talking about friendship patterns and what mutual respect looks like. So what do you notice in your friends as patterns? So are they consistently kind to you? Are they consistently including you? Are they trustworthy with things that you tell them that are private? Are they, whatever the thing would be? And if their pattern is that they're all over the place and they're being very sporadic about the way they're treating your daughter, then that would be a sign that she should look at that friendship and see if it's a true friendship. And helping her just process through that and think through it is something, if she's asking for it, something that would be really powerful to do. And again, it's really tricky at that teenage because they want it if they ask for it. So you can usually tell when there's a window when they are open to it. But a lot of times, if they bring it to you, they're ready to talk about it. But if you kind of press them to, they can close up. So it's about providing that safe space and just having it, just be there. Just be there. Ask if they want to talk about it. And if they don't, just say, I'll check in with you later. I can tell you're really upset, something like that. And then just see what happens. But I think making them aware of friendship patterns when they're open to it, and what mutual respect and friendships look like, and how it doesn't have to be a one-sided thing where one friend has all the power and they just have to go along with everything or whatever it is. And then, that'll help her feel safe to talk about what went wrong and what she can learn and how she can trust her own instincts about people. Because that's a lifelong skill. And then the last one that I've said all of these, is you're so smart. And it's not that I think you shouldn't tell girls that they're smart, because we should. But I think we should equally say, I love how you kept trying. So we want her to feel proud and capable, even when she's not perfect at doing things. And so I've used this example before, but in the classroom, anytime I would have a girl who didn't know how to do something and she normally was really good at it, it all the time would throw her into a loop of, I'm not smart. And they wouldn't always say it, but I could tell they were noticeably upset. So I would say, hey, it's okay if you're not getting this right now. Like, we just started doing this. How many times have you done this before? And this is after, working with them on it and everything. And I could just tell the frustration was really building. And they would say, well, I've only done it once or twice. I'm like, okay, that's normal. Like, it's okay. And you keep trying. And that's the most important part, is that you don't give up and you keep trying. So it's balancing those with telling them they're smart and telling them that you love how they kept trying and noticing their effort, because we want her to feel proud and capable. We don't want girls to be afraid to fail, because that can really be a problem for a lot of girls and women, is that they don't make an attempt, or they don't do the thing because they're afraid they might fail. They're afraid they might mess up in front of other people and it might look bad, whatever the case would be. And in that case, they would say, if I keep messing up, I don't feel like I'm smart at this anymore. I thought I was really good at this. I don't feel like I'm as smart at it anymore because this is hard. And I explained to them that when they're learning and they've never done something before, it's natural. That's part of the learning process, is that they just need more reps. They need more practice. They need more time. And that it doesn't mean they're not smart. It just means that they're a beginner at this one thing. So just acknowledging that and saying, I love how you kept trying, is so important. And I always think about the moment in elementary school when I played basketball, which is funny because I'm not that athletic, but I tried my best. Literally, this is the best example. One game, I mean, I didn't score any points. Like I just was kind of there for defense and I helped as much as I could. But there was a time where I was determined in this one game that I was going to make a basket. And I kept trying and trying. Every chance I got the ball, this was not typical for me because I was always scared I'd miss. I would shoot in this one game. I don't know what got into me this time, but I just decided I was going to shoot every time I got it. And every single time it either bounced off the rim, it circled the rim, it hit the net, it not an air ball, but like, it did whatever. And the entire game, I just kept trying, and the whole crowd was cheering me on. And my players were cheering me on because they saw that I was trying. And I wasn't typically a player that they cheered for. So that really gave me a boost of confidence. And I'd never scored a basket in that game. But I did still feel really proud. It was probably the proudest I ever felt playing basketball because it was the first time that I literally just tried. Without fear. Like I just kept trying and I was probably still a little scared, but I was just like, maybe I can do this. And I just kept going. And so that was the biggest compliment that people were giving me as I was leaving the gymnasium was, man, you just did not give up. You kept trying. And that really stuck with me because here I am an adult and I remember that story. So it wasn't about me scoring the most on the team. Every other player was really good and better than me, and that's a fact. Like they were just more, they just did it. They were better, they were more athletic, and that's okay. I found my thing later, but I felt really proud. And my parents told me that too. Like, we're so proud of how hard you tried. And so, yeah, it's just about cheering her effort and like that under that 6 to 9 age. I was going to say that younger age and it came out like that, but saying like you work so hard on and then fill in the blank. Like, even if it's not perfect, like, oh, you work so hard on, organizing this, whatever, or you work so hard on that puzzle, or you work so hard on that drawing, whatever it is, just making sure that they know that you also notice, yes, of course, praise them for the great things they do and tell them they're smart, but also equally as important, praise them for the progress they're making, praise them for the effort and how hard they work on things, because that is ultimately very, very important too. And as they're getting older, 10 to 13, it's same thing, highlighting that resilience. You didn't give up even when it got tricky. Even when you got to that hard math problem, you tried it and you kept going, or whatever the case would be. And then as they're getting in that teenage, showing how persistence shows up in your everyday life. Talk about how you had to rewrite a grant, you had to rewrite an email, you had to resubmit a proposal, you had to whatever the case would be. And if you remember things from school, like my basketball story, I could tell that. So whatever the case would be, just give them a story of you having to start something over and working through it, or when something didn't work out perfectly and you kept going. So just think about what you think she would relate to. And kids love hearing stories about when you were younger. Even if they roll their eyes and they're in that teenage, they still like to hear that story of like the basketball moment or whatever it would be. So when she knows her value comes from showing up and just continuing to move forward, then she learns that. And that can help her become unstoppable in everything she does. Like, just how many times have you needed to tell yourself you could keep going even when it felt really hard? And yes, we're not all perfect at it. Sometimes we do give things up and then we try something else or whatever it is, but more times than not, continuing to move forward is just as, if not more important than getting it perfect. And I just want you to think about these different scenarios and these different phrases. Again, this is never to overwhelm you. It's always to empower you in raising girls, raising confident girls, and raising, all the girls in your life. Because I think it does take a village. But if you recognized yourself in any of these phrases today, please know that's a good thing. It means you care enough to say these complimentary things and that you want to grow too. And I know that if you listen to this podcast, you are interested in trying new things with your daughter and growing as a parent or as a caregiver or as a positive influence in girls' lives. You wouldn't be listening if you weren't. So we've all said these phrases with love. And I believe that, when we say things and it's taken the wrong way, there's always room for repair too. You can talk to them and just tell them, like, that came out the wrong way. It's not what I meant, or whatever the case would be. I think that's super powerful too, to repair with our girls. But the power is in noticing and choosing new language that connects instead of always correcting, because they can feel like they're always kind of being corrected as a kid. That feels like kind of a powerless thing for them. Confidence is really built in those everyday tiny moments and in the way that we respond when she's discouraged, when she's feeling small, when she's frustrated. And if this episode helped you see something differently, I'd love for you to share it with another parent or caregiver or teacher or someone who's walking this journey with girls too. And if you're new here, check out girlspositivityclub.org and see what we're all about and how we bring positive community to schools and different states and even countries, because we believe in giving girls a positive space to belong simply for being themselves and coming as they are, whether they're confident, whether they need help with confidence, whether they're having challenges or not having challenges, all are welcome. And I thank you for your time today. And until next time, remember, for you too, it's not about being a perfect parent. It's about being the one that she can go to. And it's about continuing to learn and grow yourself. So I'm super proud of you. You're doing great. Keep at it. And until next time, keep raising those confident girls. Thanks for joining another empowering episode of the Raising Confident Girls podcast. Share today's insights with caregivers and friends, building beautiful relationships with strong girls. Hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. We're not just a podcast, we're a community. Follow Girls Positivity Club on social media for more empowering content on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. This podcast empowers you, supporting incredible girls. Let's create strong, beautiful relationships with the girls in our lives. I appreciate you listening today. Stay confident, stay connected. Until next time, keep raising those confident girls. You've got this.